Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Rancho Mirage City Council. And we are starting at 5 after 1, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. I will now call to order the October 19th, 2017 regular meeting of the City of Rancho Mirage City Council, Library Board, Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. We will now have the flag salute, and if you all rise, and Sean, would you please lead us?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, now we have the roll call, please, Chrissy.
Councilmember Hobart?
Here.
Councilmember Smotrich? Here. Councilmember Weil?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kite?
Here.
And Mayor Townsend.
I am here. Now we'll move to the non-agenda public comments. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. As a reminder, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Give your name and the city where you reside. And I have a few requests. I will start with those. First is Alan Worthy.
Well, that's what I get for being early, so. Well, I just thank you for having me, and I want to follow up from 2 weeks ago with regard to my demanding that the top brass at Eisenhower resign, and I will reiterate that again today. I don't need to go through down the list of you fine people of what is going on in this country, and everyone from Volkswagen to Equifax, with Wells Fargo in between, have resigned. And it's time that we see that at 39,000 Bob Hope Drive. I want to clarify a couple of things. More than once, Eisenhower has offered to settle, and then they pulled the rug out from under me. The last time was July a year ago. And this letter had just gone into the mail, so it passed in the night. And I told my attorney that then when she called to tell me. More than once, of course, a third-party attorney has said to me, Mr. Worthy, do not defame Eisenhower, and I have responded in one of two ways. Mr. Doe, the hospital doesn't need me to defame them. They do a fine job of it themselves. And other than that, I have stated that I'm very well known in this community, and all I have to do to defame them is to appear in public. When I could barely walk and had no Mercedes and everything else had gone missing. It's kind of no-brainer territory. I'd just like to say, it's never been my intent to do any of this, nor do I enjoy any of it. But it's, obviously the situation has been dire. And furthermore, if I were caught defaming anybody, not only is it illegal and immoral and unethical, but I would be excommunicated from the Mother Church. And so at no time have I done any such thing. Okay? So they offered to settle with me and then chose to send this obnoxious letter out that I stated in court that it was obnoxious and immoral and unethical and, in fact, felonious, okay? And then again, like I said, summer a year ago. But there was nothing in this letter that they did not already know of, except for the fact that this is the first time that I demanded that Aubrey Surfling resign. And I questioned just what is he doing to earn $1 million a year when he knew exactly what had gone on, what had happened to me, and in fact, he declined to return my phone calls pro per. Okay, so he's been aware of it all along. They all have. As I stated before, I've either dealt with them or they've deliberately chosen not to deal with me. So I thank you for your time. This situation has to draw to a close. Mayor Moon proved last night, to use the term Kool-Aid, well, now he's on it after hearing what happened to me. And again, remember, everything that happened to me in Palm Springs is related to what happened at Eisenhower, okay? And the greater point is, this is a disclosure Okay, it just presents one legal problem and exposure after the other. When you let something go like this, and like the Desert Sun, for instance, you're all following Steve Prunier in court, I hope. Well, the judge, he didn't give them a single thing a week or so ago. Didn't reduce it, nor did he throw any of it out. And who's culpable for that? They're culpable. The lawyers, no offense, sir, the lawyers are culpable for it. And the Desert Sun is culpable for it because they do not listen. And so what did they do? The criminals, they just kept going. And this is what's happened at Eisenhower, and it's just continued to go on and on and on. It has to stop. It's not okay. And it's not okay that they offer to settle and yank it out from under me, or there's always something attached to it. Some quid pro quo, bribery, you have to do this if we do that. That's illegal. It is not legal. Not only is it immoral and unethical, it's illegal. And this is how their attorneys have gotten in so deep at the bar. You wonder, I was just raised with good old-fashioned horse sense, and you have to wonder these days what happened to it. Thank you, and thank you for all your support.
Thank you. Next coming to speak is the illustrious Jason St. John from our Chamber of Commerce in Rancho Mirage.
Good afternoon, City Council members and city officials. My name is Jason St. John, General Manager of Babe's Barbecue and Brew House, and your incoming Chairman of the Board for the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce 2018. Just here to give you a very quick update on Chamber doings. As I'm sure you are all aware by now, the Rancho Mirage Chamber Block Party will be held in a few days on October 24th. It will be in the parking lot between the Chamber office and Perch. We're excited that Council Member Hobart has accepted to be one of our celebrity judges for the dog costume contest, which will be hosted by Animal Samaritans.
Good, good, good. That's very good, Dana.
Thank you,
good.
Dana.
Take a bow.
There will also be live music, local business vendors, a beer garden, and some great raffle prizes. This event is free to attend and everyone is welcome. Early the next morning, we will hold our monthly Business Over Breakfast series at Cambria on El Paseo. The topic will be very timely. It is active shooter, how to protect yourself, your staff, and your customers. I encourage you to send any city staff that may benefit from this workshop. That starts at 7:30 a.m. If mornings are not your thing, that evening, the 25th, we are partnering with the Thousand Palms Chamber for a mixer from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Rancho Mirage High School. All the proceeds raised will benefit their culinary arts program. The food served at the event will be prepared by the students, and a tour of the kitchen will be offered. As a reminder, the date for the Rammy Awards is January 29th at the show at Agua Caliente. A save the date should be going out by the end of this month. We're always very appreciative of the support of council, everything that you give us, especially that evening, as well as throughout the year. And you will be an important part again this year. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That's a good lineup. You guys should be very proud. You're doing a great job over there, really.
Thank you.
It's a great board also.
Thank you. We're doing the best that we can, and we have a very fine board assembled, and we have a good time over there.
Yeah, and you have a very fine restaurant too.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Nice, Jason.
All right. Next, we are going to have Mr. Stan Levinson. How are you, Stan?
Hi.
Good.
I'm here to give you, gentlemen and lady, an update on where we stand. I live at Rancho Mirage Country Club, and we're in the process of negotiating a settlement with the people who bought the club that destroyed our lifestyle and so forth there. And we're in the process now of a vote. And according to our CC&Rs, the vote has to pass by a 75% majority. And with that majority, the developers will be able to sell off where the existing clubhouse is now, and a boutique hotel, high-end, will be built in the place of the clubhouse. And they are planning an area of 54 twin homes, duplexes, I suppose, each building containing one 1,900 square foot house and one containing 1,300 square feet. And those will be on the golf course, and so the golf course will have to be reconfigured to a certain degree. But we're keeping it green, and it's costing the homeowners association about $30,000 a month to maintain the external perimeter and the golf course and the internal things that they own. So that's just to keep it green mode and operational, basically as a park rather than a golf course right now. And that is just an update that I wanted to give you. The second item that I have to address is Randy Binder. Wake up, Randy. I moved here 18 years ago, and I got on the planning commission, and Randy was a planner in the planning department. And Randy has worked his way through the system and became the head of the planning department and also the city manager. And I remember the first day that you were here when you became the city manager, and I stood up before this council, different people some, and I said that I look forward to Randy being the best of the best city managers in the history of Coachella Valley. And the only problem I have is Randy exceeded my expectations. And so I just wanted people to know that what a terrific person he is, and how smart he is in terms of public policy and all of those things, and his fairness and judgment with respect to people that he deals with. Continue, Randy, with what you're doing, okay?
That's very nice. Thank you. Very good, Randy. Are you going to take a bow? No, you sure? Okay, just checking.
Stan, are you related to Randy through marriage, or was it?
He told me that he would send me a check.
Okay. All right.
You know, with Stan, you never know how the statement's going to end, so thank you for that.
I did see you kind of squirm when he said, I want to talk about Randy Binder, but turned out good. Very good. And well-deserved, Randy.
Mayor, it would not be a bad idea to have Randy Binder Day.
Well, there you go. We can check into that. Absolutely.
Can we move on? Can we move on, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we may. Are you blushing? Yeah, okay. All right, next is McKenna England? Did I say that wrong? Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Here's just get on your feet. We'll adjust. There.
Do I start?
Is that good? Okay.
Can I start? Hello, City Council. I wrote this speech, if you will, to stress and talk about the roads constantly being worked on here in our aesthetic city of Rancho Mirage. I will begin with saying thank you. Thank you for providing us with newly paved roads that are smooth and ready to ride on. I did not come to only thank you. I would like to talk about the issues of the roads. Although the outcomes of the roads are select, the process of them becoming select is vile, meaning that even though the outcome of our new roads is carefully chosen as being the best or most suitable for us, is that them to become that way is extremely unpleasant, such as the dates and times of coordinated improvement. Another example is that there is no adequate warning to the people that certain roads are going to be fixed. Here are some of many experiences that I went through with the roads constantly being worked on. On September 21st, 2017, my father and I were on my way to my 1:45 physical therapy appointment. It should take us approximately 23 minutes to get from our origin place of Rancho Mirage to Palm Desert. We gave ourselves half an hour, allowing additional time because the snowbirds are slowly coming back into town. As we turned onto Monterey, we were immediately directed to transition into one lane from the original 3. Cars were solidly packed in that one lane. We were trapped without an option to change routes. Inching along, 18 minutes later, we approached Frank Sinatra, which also was coned off to one lane, and also not allowing us to make a left to avoid continuing on Monterey. We finally made it to Country Club. It took us an hour just to get to a simple physical therapy appointment. That is preposterous that we would need to plan an hour ahead just to get from Rancho Mirage to Palm Desert. Second experience with the roads. Again, my father and I were going out, this time to Palm Springs as an appointment for him. Residing in Victoria Falls, we have access to Bob Hope Drive via a back gate exit onto Ginger Rogers. This incident was as a result of the inconvenience of not knowing the left turn lane from Bob Hope Drive onto Dinah Shore was coned off, as well as Bob Hope reduced to one lane from Ramon Road. Again, without the prior knowledge, we were forced to make a right on Dinah Shore and make a U-turn at the next light. The traffic at Dinah Shore was unable to make a left turn onto Bob Hope and reduced from 3 to 1 traveling lane. As a result, the reduced lanes at Dinah Shore depicted a sports event parking lot trying to leave. It took us 45 minutes just to get to Palm Springs from Rancho Mirage. Again, it should not take us that long, and we should not have to plan that much time ahead to get where we want to be. Members of City Council, I understand you have use it or lose it money from the government for our roads, which means you will have to use that money as soon as you can to improve on our roads. I've come with an idea to help with this chaos of the roads, an idea I will hope you take into consideration. Even though I am not old enough to have a Facebook account, the City Council should make a Facebook account mainly for the roads of Rancho Mirage. You could send posts out telling when certain roads are going to be worked on, for how long, and then different routes to take. I know my parents would follow this account, and I'm sure others would too. I hope that I was not seen as a citizen complaining, but a citizen coming in with a solution. Please take all of what I have left with you today into some deep thought. Have a marvelous rest of your day, and thank you for the platform to have a voice in the community.
Thank you, McKenna. Mark, don't we post this when we're doing these improvements?
Oh, we do, Mr. Mayor. We coordinate with our marketing department. We have e-blasts that we put out. We put out also notices to the news media. If you listen to the radio in the mornings, they've been very good about describing any of our traffic conditions that we have with regard to closures or constrictions. So we do our best, Mr. Mayor, to advise the public well in advance, but obviously we can always find a way to do better.
Absolutely. McKenna, thank you. That was wonderfully done.
Can I just ask a question for that? So she's homeschooled, so we're not really listening to the radio much in the mornings. And so the e-blast, how would we do that? Because I've gone out and I've seen the Facebook page, and I've put that on, but I don't see any types of posts for that.
But if it's okay, Sean, can I defer that to you? I'm not familiar with how the e-blast works.
Sure, Mark. Actually, once we're done here, I'd be happy to meet you in the lobby. I can get your email address and put you on our subscription list, and you would get all of our press releases that go out relative to roads and otherwise.
Okay. That'd be great. Actually, I can get that to you or after, because she has a class connect, and so right after, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to stay for the rest of the meeting, and so I have to get.
I'll meet you as soon as you're
Okay.
done with your
That'd be
presentation.
great.
Yeah.
This was her opportunity to see how public services work and things like that.
Well, she did very, very well, and thank you for bringing that
Thank you for
to
giving her
us.
that opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, McKenna. Yeah, the Facebook suggestion is a very good one, actually. Very, very good. We'll look into that, really.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you both.
And I
It
just,
was-
with it being social media, that's
Yeah.
the way. It seems like everybody's on Facebook, so I thought, that would be was one solution, because we don't listen to the radio in the morning because we're in the classroom, so
Yeah.
doing those types of things.
Well, that's why we're here, to listen to good ideas, and
Yeah.
you got it.
We
So
appreciate it.
Thank you very much
Beautiful
for
city. We
taking
love
the
living
time.
there, so thank you.
Thank you. I have all the cards done. Are there anybody in the audience who has not filled out a card who would like to speak? All right. Then when we will move on, I will close that part of the meeting, and I will now move on to city council comments, and I will start. Tomorrow, October the 20th at 1 p.m., I have the honor to welcome Mayor Sylviane Tiahatie from Tahiti in France, Polynesian. I think I did nail it with that one. And she brought with her a group that will be performed right here in our city council chambers tomorrow. So please join us for a cultural exchange program here in the city council chambers, as I said. And they will be performing exchange of programs on Friday, also on the 20th at 1 p.m. The public is invited to attend this exciting event, as well as a full day of free activities when Mayor Tia and her entourage present the Taste of Tahiti program on October the 21st, which is the Taste of Tahiti, will take place from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn, located at 71700 Highway 111 in the beautiful city of Rancho Mirage. Tahitian culture, performers, and entertainers will be showcased during this event and this grand evening gala as well. Tickets for the gala are available for purchases at www.tasteoftahiti.org. Hope you all can make it to this one-of-a-kind culture event here in our city. And again, tomorrow, Friday at 1 o'clock here, they will be doing a slight presentation and exchange of gifts with the mayor and with the mayor of the island. So you're all welcome to that. And with that, I will turn it over to council comments. Mr. Kite.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What is your favorite topic of council comments that you haven't heard for a while?
Let me see. Council comments haven't heard for a while. Does it have to do with Rattlers?
Go Rattlers.
Hey!
Yes, you got
I
it.
got it. Okay.
Well, since you said that, and since we haven't talked about the Rattlers for a while, thought I'd just bring everybody up to date as to what's going on with our great football team. The Rattlers at this point are 4-3 on the season, and they're 1-1 in the division, the Deanza League that they play in. They beat 29 Palms last week by a score of 35-13, so they're back on the winning ways. Tomorrow they play Yucca Valley here at Rancho Mirage High School. So if you haven't seen them for a while, get out and see them play Yucca Valley. The following week they play Desert Mirage, and then the following week after that, the last game of the season will be Desert Hot Springs. So if they get through the next three teams, they'll more than likely go into Southern Section playoffs, and that's really exciting. So get out and say hello to your team, root them on. And just to get you out for a little more excitement, a week from tomorrow is homecoming at the high school, and they're going to have fireworks during halftime, and it will really be a great show. So that's a week from tomorrow, the 27th. Get out and root them on, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. The Rattlers deserve our rooting on, and so go Rattlers.
Yay, Richard. Where's your jacket?
Oh, my jacket may be broken out for the next meeting.
Well, they're very good.
It's a
That's
little
what kind of
warm
threw me.
outside yet, you
Oh,
know.
very good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Richard. Mr. Dana.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remind people who didn't see today's headlines in the Desert Sun. It identified the fact that the city had been the victim of a $78,000 embezzlement by a former employee. The article omitted some essential information that I thought at least our residents would be pleased to learn. First, the fact is that the embezzlement, which had gone on for a period of a year or two, was discovered by other staff members of our city. It wasn't somebody that brought it to our attention. It was discovered by some very bright people who started looking at some numbers. Additionally, the owners of the property that got the so-called bills that got paid by the city instead of by the owners of the property should know that no owner suffered a loss. Not a single person who was purportedly provided services for which the city was paying had lost a dime because they never got billed. The billings were circumvented the owners and went to a co-conspirator who was running a company that would receive the checks. So that was an important point. The other point that would have been appropriate for the newspaper to highlight was that the city of Rancho Mirage, unlike some cities in the valley, insures against theft or embezzlement, which means we will not suffer, the city will not suffer, and our employees will not suffer the loss of anything as a consequence of the embezzlement. Not everybody has insurance for it, but we consider it to be the prudent approach to running City Hall, and this is one of the reasons that we do buy such insurance. So I just wanted to point that out, and hopefully the Desert Sun reporter will be kind enough to cause somebody at the newspaper to accelerate those points if they do a continuation of the story. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. That's a great overview and very timely. Thank you for doing that. Mr. Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sunnylands Center and Gardens is currently hosting a fantastic seasonal art exhibition by the Chavez Morado brothers, Carved Narrative, Los Hermanos Chavez Morado. The exhibit was part of the Getty-sponsored Pacific Standard Time, LALA, an exploration of Latino art that was showcased at 70 different cultural institutions throughout Southern California last fall. Those that have toured the estate will probably recognize the fountain on the screen above. The fountain was created by the Chavez Morado brothers in 1968 at the request of Walter and Lenore Annenberg as a half-scale replica of the brothers' 40-foot bronze columnar fountain that can be found in the courtyard of the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. Nearly 50 years later, Sunnylands is showcasing 37 additional works by the brothers, including 21 sculptures by Tomas and 16 by Jose. This exhibition is unique in that it is the first outside of Sunnyland's own collection to be displayed. It is also the first joint American display of the late brothers. The exhibition is currently on display from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursdays through Sunday until June of this year. Excuse me, until June of 2018. Best of all, admission is free. For more information, please visit the Sunnylands Center and Garden website at www.sunnylands.org or call 760-202-2266. And I might make reference that Sunnylands is probably one of the most outstanding assets of our city. And what they provide our residents and visitors is quite phenomenal because the vast majority is free of charge. You can go there, whether it be yoga or art exhibition or bird watching or all of the horticultural events that they have, including movies and so forth. It's just a terrific resource that our residents and visitors can take advantage of. So avail yourself. Sunnylands is terrific, and we're most indebted to them for the services they provide. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ted. Sunnylands is another wonderful feather in our cap in the city
Indeed
of
it
Rancho Mirage.
is.
Very proud of it. Last but not least, Ms. Hymas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to talk about a couple of things because I'm very excited about a very special event that's going to be taking place at our Rancho Mirage Community Park. And it's a project on which many of us have been working for over a year. And Jason, if you would put it up on the screen. This is a save a date notice, and we'd like you to please make sure that you mark your calendars for a very special event coming up on this coming Veterans Day. The City of Rancho Mirage will be presenting a Veterans Day ceremony at Rancho Mirage Community Park on November 11th, 2017, beginning at 10 a.m. It is at this ceremony that the Veterans Recognition Wall and Memorial Flame Monument will be unveiled. The ceremony will include the presentation of colors from the 29 Palms United States Marine Corps Color Guard. We'll feature speakers from military branches, live patriotic music, and ceremonial flyover will be provided by the Palm Springs Air Museum. This ceremony is open to the public and promises to be a very memorable occasion. So I hope that you all can join me on this very special day. I know you will be very moved and very touched by what you will see. And then moving on to the next slide. I am very thrilled to be involved with the Air Museum. I've been a devoted supporter of our military and veterans, past, present, and future, and I was absolutely thrilled when the City of Rancho Mirage wanted to complete the Wall of Remembrance area in the Rancho Mirage Community Park by adding a meditation sitting area along with an eternal flame monument and words of recognition to all those who fought for the freedoms we have enjoyed over the decades. As you walk into the General Kenneth Miles hangar, which is the newest hangar at the Air Museum, this is what you see on the floor. It is very beautiful, it is very impressive, and it certainly is a good pathway into what you're about to see throughout the entire hangar. Next, Jason. I'd like to just go through a couple of photos that I took because I thought they were very memorable, and it really showcased a museum that is like none other that we have around this immediate area or for hundreds of miles and beyond. I'll go through them rather quickly, stopping on a couple of them just to explain what they are and what they recognize. So this is obviously presidents who served in our military. This is a very special one because it is the special aircraft that General Ken Miles flew, and this was the painting on the side of the airplane. Needless to say, this is a uniform that so many of us recognize from the Marine Corps. It is a number of, part of a number of artifacts that are in the museum, and this is part of a very special exhibit. As we move on, because this is the Museum of the Korean War and the Vietnam War, everything that will be shown on the screen right now will be part of those particular wars. This was the map of where the Korea military action took place. This is the Korean Wall of Remembrance and the thank you to the supporters. This is the Vietnam War map, and it gives you a good indication of just how much land was involved. This is a fine group of young men, and it's a very popular picture that I've seen on numerous occasions, and it really depicts the youth and the vibrancy that all of our veterans have possessed when fighting for our country. This is the Vietnam War of remembrance and a thank you to the supporters. And this is a special wall of all the veterans. These are the ones that were returned, that had the opportunity to come back to our country. And in the next frame, you'll see the close-up pictures. And a lot of people who are next to them were people who wore bracelets to commemorate and hope that these veterans would be coming back. A number of them did not come back, but there were bracelets that a number of us wore that had an MIA/POW engraving on it, and these were the ones we wore for a long time, hoping that we would have someone whose name was on our bracelet return well and alive. And this is a gentleman named Dr. Dave Thompson. He and his wife Diane have been in charge of accumulating all the bracelets that were turned in and putting them on display. You can see in a little bit closer up view on the next slide that there are a variety of different bracelets. A number of people went to their own jewelers and had duplicate bracelets made so they could wear them more comfortably. And when they had the opportunity and the museum opened up this special exhibit, they were pleased to donate their bracelets and have them on display. There are additional several hundred bracelets that are in storage that someday will be on display also. And this is self-explanatory, obviously, and honoring the fallen soldiers. This is a tree that someone made that has all the bracelets that he could collect. These bracelets were not worn, but were made as a monument to those that had fallen, but all of them as heroes. And this is a special notation of someone named Ronald Mayercheck. His name is First Lieutenant Ronald Michael Mayercheck from New Jersey. He was a navigator with the 11th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, and on a night weather reconnaissance mission over Laos on November 21st, 1967, his aircraft crashed in Kon Tum Province, 50 miles southwest of Long Tien in rugged jungle-covered mountains. And although his remains have yet to be recovered, he is presumed to have died in the crash. Lieutenant Mayercheck was posthumously promoted to captain. Next. And this is a bracelet that I wore for almost 3 years. Thank you, Jason. Please put on your calendar to attend our special event. It promises, as I say, to be very moving, very touching, and a wonderful way to recognize all of our heroes, past, present, and future. And just as a little side note, I wanted to add that Ronald Mayercheck is very special to me because, of course, I wore his bracelet for almost 3 years. And I had to take it off because the inside wore thin and started to rust. It was a great honor for me, and this is actually the bracelet that I wore. I keep it in a very special place, and someday I will bring it into the museum and they can put it on display. But I would also like to say on a more personal note that when I received the bracelet, I also received his mother's address, and I corresponded her for a while, and it was a lovely relationship, but it was very painful for both of us. So I think of her often, But I wanted to add a special thanks to our museum, because without the museum and without the kiosk that has all of the different veterans' names and history placed in the kiosk, I would never have known what Ronald Mayercheck actually looked like. It was through the museum and through this display that I was able to finally see what he was and appreciate the fact that his life was given for such a wonderful country, and we look forward to always remembering our heroes and recognizing them and paying tribute to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Let me also dovetail that with your inspiration, you are the one, along with staff, that is taken on the Veterans Memorial, changing it, and putting on this event. And thank you very much for doing that. It's a wonderful thing.
It's my
and your
pleasure.
staff that helped you here at City Hall.
And the
Thank
staff
you,
has
everybody.
been absolutely wonderful. There was
Yeah.
a lot of participation from many people, and I think everyone will be thrilled when we have the opening ceremony.
Very good. Beautifully done. Beautifully presented. Thank you. Okay, then we will move on now with the move to approve the regular meeting minutes of October the 5th, 2017. Are there any corrections to the minutes of that meeting? All right, seeing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Councilmember Smotrich, would you please try your vote one more time? And motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chrissy. Next is the consent calendar. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Randy Binder, our city manager. Randy, will you please introduce the consent items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good afternoon. I'd be happy to. You have 9 items on your consent calendar. The first one would be to waive full reading of the ordinances that would be introduced or adopted pursuant to today's agenda. Item number 2 is second reading of an ordinance regarding recreational vehicle regulations. Item number 3 on consent, second reading of RV definitions, temporary occupancy vehicles. Item number 4 on consent is second reading of the parking and loading standards, residential uses. Item number 5 on consent is second reading vacation rentals. We went through this in detail at your last meeting.
Yes.
Item number 6 on your consent calendar is a request for a fireworks display approval at Rancho Mirage High School. Mayor Pro Tem,
What's his name?
Mr. Kite, I believe
What's
it
his
is.
name?
Rattler Boy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been here before.
yes, sorry.
He's new, Randy.
And you're not the first one, Randy.
Mayor Pro Tem Kite
Good.
mentioned earlier. A week from tomorrow on Friday will be the homecoming day at the high school football game, and at halftime, if you approve this on your consent calendar today, they will have a fireworks show. That's what I was trying to say.
Also, if you attend the game, you will see Randy Binder in the flesh.
Yeah,
So he will be there.
I think that's asking a little too much.
just arms. Item number 7 on your consent calendar is appointment of a technical advisor to the Community Emergency Preparedness Commission. This is a recommendation to appoint James McFarland to the Emergency Preparedness Commission as a technical advisor. Item number 8 on your consent calendar are contracts. Item number 9 are demands. And Mr. Mayor, we are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Binder. Do any members of the public wish to speak concerning any of these items on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, are there any council questions or comments on this calendar?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next, we will move to reports and information items. First is the final results of the 2017 Successor Agency Bond Refunding Plan. Isaiah Hagerman, Director of Administrative Services, will present the report. Isaiah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This report is for a receive and file today. Back in May 2017, Mayor Pro Tem Kite and Councilman Hobart reviewed the remaining successor agency bonds, and we determined that there was one good candidate for a possible refunding. The City Council approved that plan to move forward in July of 2017. And the bonds were sold in early October. And so let's go over the results. Jason, if we could pull up the power. Thank you. So the original estimate was what we saw in July when this was first approved by the council, and the column on the right are the final results. So what we saw is since July through October, the bond team was working to get this deal done. One of the key elements of bonds is its rating. So how safe is the investment? The good news for us is that these bonds actually received a rating upgrade. So they were rated A+ instead of A, which really drove up the savings. So that's the primary reason for the difference that you're seeing between the original and the final results. So in total, as a percentage of refunding, we saved almost 17%, which is extremely high. And we reduced overall debt service by just under $5.6 million. And an important thing to note is we don't extend the life of the debt from the original issuance. So that reduction of almost $5.6 million is within the remaining term of the bond. So that's just a fantastic result. Prior to the refunding, the remaining interest rate on these bonds was 5.16%. And now the new all-in true interest rate, so that considers all the costs to issue these bonds and everything all included. So the new interest rate all in is now 3.06%. So not only were we able to reduce the total principal, we were also able to reduce the interest rate that we pay on that principal. And the successor agency debt is not debt of the city of Rancho Mirage. This debt was the former RDA's, and the city just simply acts in a fiduciary capacity. So it's not our liability. It's not the city's liability. We are just managing the wind down of the successor agencies as prudent as we can. And that's really why we do these things, is to reduce the overall debt service, because these bonds are funded with property tax dollars. So when we reduce debt service, that enables property tax dollars to flow through to government agencies instead of bondholders, and I have an example of what that means. So on this table that you see on the screen now, this is the outline of what the remaining debt service was under the old bonds. That's the 2008 bond debt service column. So that was prior to the refunding. And then the middle column is the new 2017 bonds and what the debt service is. And then the column on the far right is the difference between those two. You will see at the end of the term, that adds up to that about $5.6 million reduction that I mentioned earlier. So every year, an additional about $320,000 is going to flow through to various taxing agencies to be used for services instead of going to bondholders. So how's that work? So that $5.6 million in savings, this is the approximate way that that money over the life of that debt will be redistributed to all the taxing agencies. So you can see the two highlighted ones are obviously the ones associated with Rancho Mirage. So the city is obviously a taxing agency that receives property tax dollars along with many others. So in doing this, an additional $80,512 over the life of these bonds will flow through to the city for services. And then also the bottom highlight is our fire service. So those property tax dollars will be used for the city for our fire services. It's not the first bond refunding plan that the council has approved. Prior to the 2017 plan, the city concluded a 2016 plan and a 2013 plan. Those two plans combined reduced overall debt service by $44.8 million. So when you look at it all together, when you add the 2017, the 2016, and the 2013 reductions in debt service, we have reduced overall debt service by just under $50.4 million. So out of the remaining life of these bonds, there's an additional $50 million flowing through for government services instead of going to bondholders, which benefits everybody on that list. And that concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does any council have questions or comments? Richard?
Just one comment. I think it's really great that we're at this point in debt service. As Isaiah said, we do not have any long-term outstanding debt as a city. We paid off our debt some time ago, and now we're paying off the debt of the successor agency. But when you look and compare our financial condition to any other city in the valley, I'm sure you'll find that there's nobody even close to us as far as reduction in long-term debt and continuing to act as a very financially sound institution. So congratulations, Isaiah. You've done a great job in bringing us to this point. The subcommittee, which is Dana and myself, have had great opportunity to work with you, and I'm sure we'll be looking forward as we get to reduce further debt in the future.
Thank you, Richard. Any further comments? All right, seeing none.
Yeah, I'll echo that it was really a remarkable achievement, and we can all be extremely proud that we are in such a financially sound city that we can do so much basically debt-free. And I think we're the envy of a lot of cities, and it's wonderful to be the to lead the pack, if you will. And I hope we set an example for others. It's fine to be out in front, but I hope that we're judicious in a way that others will follow. So yes, Isaiah, congratulations.
Well said, Ted. Thank you, everybody. We are now going to move on to item number 11. Do I need an approval on that? Chris?
Receive and file.
No.
Just receive and file.
Just
So
receive and
no
file.
action taken.
Okay. Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to number 11, and that is a CV Link update. Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most everyone knows, Rancho Mirage opted out of becoming part of the CV Link by an 80 to 20% vote of Rancho Mirage residents. Except for Indian Wells, no other city council has allowed their residents to vote on the CV Link project. One issue remains to be resolved, however, is whether CVAG can use our roadway repair funds, that is, Measure A sales tax funds, to prop up the CV Link, both in building the $100 to $125 million project, but also to annually be used to help pay for operations and maintenance. That will last for approximately 75 years, what is stated to be the life of the CV Link. Rancho Mirage considered whether our city should seek to protect our Measure A funds by filing a lawsuit to stop the intended taking of tax dollars for CV Link, these Measure A dollars. The city decided not to go forward with litigation. However, a week ago, former Palm Desert City Councilman, attorney Jim Ferguson, filed a lawsuit against Coachella Valley Association of Governments, the RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, and the South Coast Air Quality Management District for their various decisions regarding CV Link. Basically, Mr. Ferguson's lawsuit challenges the following. CVAG's and Riverside County's Transportation Committee, the action of the two of them, which permitted CVAG to use Measure A funds and TUMF funds for CV Link. And the decision made by the South Coast Air Quality Management District to give CVAG $17.5 million from the Sentinel Air Plant's Air Pollution Mitigation Fund. Rancho Mirage has long contended, and Mr. Ferguson has alleged in his lawsuit, that the CV Link is not eligible for air quality grants because CVAG did not implement the neighborhood electric vehicle component of CV Link within the time permitted by then existing law. The CV Link is scheduled to spend tens of millions of dollars to build a 14-foot wide center lane for use by so-called neighborhood electric vehicles. NEVs are the initials, the acronym for them. NEVs are vehicles that can reach a speed of 25 miles per hour within a distance of 1,000 feet. About 300 of them or so are registered in the Coachella Valley. All NEVs have to be registered with the state of California. All have to be driven only by licensed automobile drivers, and there are other accoutrements with respect to what an NEV has to have on its body as compared to golf carts that we generally see. These are not ordinary golf carts. The NEV component was the basis of the South Coast Air Quality Management District Award, as CVAG was claiming the NEV portion turned CV Link into an emissions reduction project. The idea, the SCAQMD was persuaded by the argument that the CV Link would reduce carbon emissions in the valley because people would switch from automobiles to neighborhood electric vehicles along Highway 111 in some significant proportion. The idea is absurd. There's not one person who's going to have business taking their car somewhere that's going to say, oh, I'm going to take the CV Link in a neighborhood electric vehicle, which he wouldn't have had in the first place, and that you're going to go somewhere with it and then come back. It's just a preposterous idea. At any rate, Mr. Ferguson is contending that the South Coast Air Quality Maintenance District must recall that $17.5 million award because CVAG failed to take timely action to approve an NEV program. There are other issues included in the Ferguson lawsuit, but this is the gist of his claims, and we will follow intently what occurs. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dana. Next on the agenda, we will move to the action calendar. Item number 12 is consideration of the SAF awards, and Gloria Griego, our contract specialist, presents the staff report. Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank the fiscal year 17-18 Special Assistance Fund Subcommittee, consisting of council members Iris Smotrich and Ted Weil, for their guidance during the process. As we know, SAF funds have been budgeted by the City Council each year for the past 27 years. These monies are earmarked for nonprofit agencies whose priorities are food, clothing, shelter, and services for the less fortunate. I recently met with this year's subcommittee to thoroughly vet the applications. Attached to the staff report are the recommended SAF awards, which, if approved by the council today, will provide direct financial assistance to 19 different nonprofits for a total of $54,500. Approval is recommended. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Gloria.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one thing.
Yes.
As a reminder, the City of Rancho Mirage also recently gave $35,000 to the Path to Life Ministries and the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, $33,000 up front and $3,500 a month for a total of $103,000.
Thank you, Randy, for bringing that up and adding that to it. All right, are there any people in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none. Any questions from council? Any comments? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Ted.
And move that the City Council approve disbursement of special assistance funds listed in the staff report as recommended by the subcommittee.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Number 13 is a resolution proposing to join CCEA. Mr. Hagerman will present the staff report.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, but before the presentation begins, I will need to recuse myself because of investments that my husband and I have in this International Edison Corporation.
You are excused.
Thank you.
Isaiah, when she leaves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you today is a resolution for the City of Rancho Mirage potential CCA to join with the California Choice Energy Authority, also referred to as CCEA. So a little bit of background before we talk about the proposed action today. Rancho Mirage has been exploring a community choice aggregation. A community choice aggregation is a way for a local government to step in on the power procurement side and deliver power to its community through the Edison network. And by doing so, we are able to pass savings through to our residents and our businesses in the Southern California Edison service territory. So it's important to note that really this is almost behind the scenes type work from a ratepayer standpoint or a resident standpoint. We're not becoming Southern California Edison. We're not becoming the utility. We're simply just purchasing power and delivering it through the Edison network to our community. And in doing so, we are able to save our residents and our businesses a little bit of money on their bills. And out here, due to our climate, the bills are significant, and anything that we can do to help in this area has great potential, which has really been the primary driving force behind the city studying this. And so if you're a ratepayer in Edison, you don't change who you pay. Edison still maintains the poles, the wires, reads meters. If you're on auto pay with Edison, you're still on auto pay. If you do a level pay plan, that's still fine. The only difference is that on the your bill has two components. There's an infrastructure charge for the poles and wires. That's set and determined by Edison. And then on the power use supply side, they simply use the rate structure adopted by the City Council instead of the Edison rate structure. So really, we're not becoming a utility. We're just stepping in the small area to try to pass some savings on to our residents and our businesses in our community. So as we've been going through this process, the CCA Formation Subcommittee, which consists of Mayor Pro Tem Kite and Councilman Hobart. This has been a topic that we've been reviewing for probably almost 2 years now. We've done various studies that have been presented to the full council, and we've elected to continue to move forward. At a previous meeting, we adopted an implementation plan. That was a key step in this process. And really to summarize it all up, as we've been moving through this and finding out more data, it's telling us right now that this looks positive and we can do this. And so we're still gathering more information and refining our estimates as we move through this process. The action today to join CCEA is really a result of decisions that we made a while ago when we were talking about formation. So when you look at a CCA, there's really two ways you can do it. You can do it on your own. You can be your own standalone CCA, or you can join in a big traditional regional entity and have a bunch of communities join in and do this all together. Well, from early on in the process, we knew that we wanted to maintain local control of this, and there were two areas where we were seeking to work with other CCAs, and that was really procuring power and the regulatory reporting. Every CCA has to do those two functions. And that is the advantage of these big regional JPAs is they cover a larger service area and they get economies of scale in power procurement because they're purchasing more power and in the regulatory reporting side. However, with the traditional JPA approach, you will sacrifice local control. So you become one vote on a big regional body, and a lot of times a smaller community like ours is outvoted in favor of the larger communities in that JPA board. So knowing that everything that this CCA does, each decision that you make along the way will potentially impact your rate structure and the amount of savings that you can provide, we knew that we wanted to keep some local control with this. And what I mean by that is under the way that we've been going is a Rancho Mirage standalone CCA. It's the city council that would be making these decisions. From a local control standpoint, there's no more local control than that. Rather than a regional board where only one of our elected officials would be on that board. And you would actually have elected officials from other communities making the decision for our community. Well, as we've seen, our communities are very different and some of the priorities can be very different. So we knew right off the bat that it was important for us, given the data, that we retain local control, but look to partner in these two areas so that we can achieve economies of scale in power procurement and regulatory reporting. We just didn't quite know how we were going to build that. So in the beginning, Riverside County for the unincorporated areas was doing the same functions we were and carrying the same message we were, that there's a way to do this without giving up your program, without giving up local control of your program. So as we explored the various options, we actually came across CCEA. And CCEA is almost like a hybrid JPA approach. It is created by cities for cities. And what it does is it allows a city to retain its local control. And what CCEA does is it's a group of independent CCAs that get together and say, we're going to use common consultants to purchase power and regulatory reporting. Every other decision remains with the CCA. So that is a way to achieve the benefits of a traditional JPA without sacrificing your local control. So in essence, we are joining, when it comes to power procurement and regulatory reporting, we are joining other communities just for those two functions through CCEA. What that does for our program is if we would try to do that on our own, the Rancho Mirage power supply, we would be a blip on the radar. But by joining with other communities, you expand that power, how much you're going to purchase. And you also are able to use common consultants, so there's cost savings there. So really, we're talking about the administrative side of things. It's the two functions that we all have to do, that there is advantages to larger service areas. So we are, under this proposal, would potentially be taking advantage of a larger service area without giving up our local control. And from the beginning, depending on the community, they get to set their priorities. That's local control. So there are some CCAs out there that would make different decisions than we would. There are some communities out there that would make different decisions that maybe work for their community that wouldn't work for ours. Instead of being forced into a traditional JPA where everybody has to make the same decision for every single thing that you're going to do, this is a way for cities to work together to retain your local control, yet still take advantage of economies of scale with power purchasing and regulatory reporting. And the great thing about CCEA is really this was the brainchild of the city of Lancaster. The city of Lancaster was the first standalone CCA to operate in the Southern California Edison territory. So they recognized it, and they were really ahead of everybody else when it came to this. They were the first one to do it in Southern California, and even the examples they had in Northern California of CCAs, those were the big traditional regional JPAs. So they were really kind of pioneers in this. And as they've adopted this, this was essentially, they built the plan that we were seeking. And it makes sense because as a city, when you look at retaining local control, there are ways to do that, yet still achieve the economies of scale. So for us, this next step, we see it as a continuing of our message from the very beginning, is this would allow us to achieve economies of scale in power purchasing and regulatory reporting, yet still keep local control so that we can control the overhead and the costs that are flowing through to our potential ratepayers. CCEA also buffers members from each other. So, if something happens with one of the associate members in this JPA, it is a JPA, so we are buffered from the other members. So as we go through this, there's still work to do. We still have off-ramps, but essentially by taking this next step, what we're saying is if we were to operate, we're going to do power procurement and regulatory reporting through CCEA, and the benefits of that are reduced overhead, which will maximize the savings that we can provide to our residents. There's still a lot of work to do on this. Still a lot of work to do with the subcommittee. We still have meetings with Southern California Edison. We're still getting more detailed analysis of the community's electric use. So really, as we move through this process, we're not to the yes, we're going to operate stage yet. So this action today doesn't commit us to operating and starting a CCA. This just is the next step in the process that allows us to continue to study this. And as we move through this process, the number one goal for our CCA has been how much savings can we provide to our residents? And that's really the driving force behind this. There are going to be some other aspects of the program that are beneficial to the environment as far as our renewable energy mix. But again, the number one goal right now of our program is to maximize those savings to our residents and do it in a manner that keeps overhead low. So by being able to utilize proven consultants that are already doing CCA operations and take their expertise and everything that they've learned by actually doing this work and bring it into our program before we even start, that's another valuable component of joining CCEA. We are joining people that are already running a CCA. They're consultants, and CCEA is just a big group of consultants that we all contract with together to do power purchasing and regulatory reporting, so it lowers the overhead for everybody. So we are getting access to people that are already doing this. So they're experts in this field, and they're successful in this field. At this point, that concludes my presentation. Barbara Boswell from Bayshore Consultants is here, and I'd like to ask Barbara to come up, and she has a quick PowerPoint that she would like to present to the council to give you a little bit more information about CCEA.
Hi, Barbara.
Good afternoon, Mayor Townsend, Mayor Pro Tem Kite, council members, and staff. It's my pleasure to be here to present before you. Director Hagerman did a great job at providing the overview, and I think I'm going to there'll be a few things that he's touched on that I will as well. A bit of background on me: I was the former finance director for the city of Lancaster at the time that they began evaluating community choice aggregation and then went through the implementation process. And as most finance directors, when the idea first came before me, I said, this is not something we're probably going to do. It's risky. It's not something that other cities have done. But as we went through the evaluation process, I realized that it's a program that benefits the cities, but also directly benefits the residents and the savings that can be generated for those citizens. Lancaster launched in May of 2015, and we were the first city to do it alone. Since that time, we've saved our customers almost $1 million. We have offered a higher renewable energy product to our customers. We double the rebate that customers have for solar. And so there's been a real benefit to the community and to the residents themselves. So an overview of California Choice Energy Authority. The California Choice Energy Authority is a JPA that was initially created by the cities of Lancaster and San Jacinto to jointly pursue alternative energy projects. And then that became the umbrella under which then services could be shared for managing and administering community choice aggregation programs. Cities that are interested to participate join as an associate member. Current associate members are Lancaster, who are operating as Lancaster Choice Energy and launched in May of 2015. Pico Rivera recently joined, and they began operating just last month, September of 2017, and their program is Prime. So each individual CCA has its own marketing, its own brand, its own program, and then San Jacinto will launch in April 2018 as San Jacinto Power. So the benefits of being an associate member of CCEA, Isaiah touched on most of those. One is maintaining local control. So you set your priorities for your program. If rate savings is your priority, then your program is tailored to achieve those rate savings. This is your program, not CCEA's program. If you look at Lancaster Choice Energy's website or Pico Rivera's websites, you will not see CCEA anywhere on their websites. You will only see their CCA programs. We achieve economies of scale, so we have better buying power for procuring power. We work together on complying with regulatory requirements and regulatory advocacy. It's incumbent on the CCAs to stay on top of things, for example, Southern California Edison's rate proceedings to make sure that there aren't impacts that negatively impact the CCA's ability to be marketable. You do have the opportunity to work with a team that is experienced. Lancaster has been operating successfully for over 2 years, and their team of consultants, and thereby the consultants for CCEA, also have that same level of expertise, and actually more. The technical experts have been working in the CCA field since CCA first came to fruition in Northern California in 2010. Again, it's a program created by cities for the benefit of cities. The actions before you at this time are consideration of the resolution to join CCEA as an associate member. There's also an administrative services agreement which sets out the terms of operations and sets out the terms under which CCEA will administer your program. And again, that's the documents that will insulate you from other members. So you're not taking on liabilities of other CCEA members. The next steps would be that you would execute the documents, and then we would begin testing the data exchange between Southern California Edison and the data managers to make sure that the data will flow, that we can receive the meter read information and calculate the bills appropriately. We will update the financial pro forma. We will be able to get, again, more detailed granular data from Southern California Edison in which to then update that financial pro forma and be able to provide you with more, much better information than we've seen in the past. And then we can begin our procurement process. Again, there are off-ramps. If at any point it looks like this is just not going to work, you're still not committed, even though we are taking steps, you can still stop the process. The final time which you're committed is at the time that contracts are signed for power. And these actions are not doing that. These are allowing us to continue to move forward.
Very good.
That
Barbara, I have a
concludes-
question.
Yes, sir.
If everything goes well, all the stars align, when do you think, I don't even know if you can answer it, that this would be presented to the citizens of Rancho Mirage, you or Isaiah?
So we are working towards a launch in May of 2018. We would begin noticing customers, assuming that the council gave the nod to go ahead and move forward and execute the contracts. Notices would begin to go out in March of 2018 and April 2018, as well as then other marketing efforts that are appropriate for your community.
Yeah, and Mayor, from a staff perspective, we're really looking at probably the end of December, early January, where we're going to actually be able to look at our rate schedules and compare them to Edison and say, okay, we are going to be able to provide X amount, this is the rate schedule, these are the costs, this is the potential benefit to participants in the program. If at that point, we've discussed this a little bit at the subcommittee level, so essentially that would be the first step, like everything else we do. But we would most likely see at least 1 or 2 council study sessions on this topic to dive into the details and then take that direction back and refine the estimates, and then an action at a full-blown council meeting after we decide to go. Sean and his department in marketing, this will be an all hands on deck to communicate to our community on what it is. Because the important thing to remember is this is a choice. So residents and businesses are not required to join this program. So they don't have to join if they don't want to. They can stay with Edison and they can stay on the Edison rate structure. So we have to do a good job at setting rates and running a program in order for it to be successful. Because if you're not cheaper, people aren't going to join your program.
Right.
So at that point, you're talking about town hall forums where we
That's
would
where I
be
was
available
going,
to the
yeah.
public. We're doing mass mailers. We're creating a website. In addition to that, we would set specific meetings with our business community because their rate structures are a little bit more complicated than the residential rate structure. And we would go to our big businesses in town and we would hold meetings with them directly to explain what the program is and how it would work for them specifically. So there would be a massive public outreach campaign if the council decided to move forward with this.
Very good. Isaiah, is there a window that this will be rolled out where you have so many days or months, and then if you don't, you're done?
Yeah, so per law, there are 2 opt-out notices that go out. And the opt-out notice is exactly how it sounds. It's if you don't want to be in the Rancho Mirage CCA, you have to take affirmative action to get out of it and stay with Southern California Edison. So there are 2 of those notices that will go to every ratepayer per law. With that, there will also be the communication and mailers from the city, the website, and a lot of information is going to be put out to our public at that point. I can see us doing, in addition to town hall forums, probably some meetings at HOAs, and just, what we typically do anytime we're going to embark on a major initiative like this is we're not going to change our game plan. It is successful. This has been presented in the Insider twice already to kind of put our residents on alert, saying, hey, if you hear this being talked about, this is why. So we're going to follow our game plan that we have for our public outreach campaigns, but it will be a heavy one just so that we can distribute as much information as possible.
Very good. That's quite a program. Barbara, wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions of Barbara? Richard?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of follow up on what Isaiah was saying, we've been working on this program for over a year now, the subcommittee, and I think we're still moving ahead. We have not got enough information yet to declare that this is something we're going to do now. I think the important things are that this step allows us, this vote today allows us to make that next step, continuing to work with the consultants, get the data, As Isaiah said, one of the things that's really important to us is that we maintain control over what's going on here. We're not dealing with somebody else who is going to tell us how to operate our program. I think to summarize the program at this point is to read the last paragraph on page 13.2 that says the adoption of the attached resolution does not commit Rancho Mirage to operating a CCA. It does provide the ability for Rancho Mirage to continue evaluating and moving towards its implementation, a CCA, should the council make that decision. So we're in that process now. Over the next couple of months, we're certainly going to be working closely with a consultant to get more and more data so that we can come back to you and make that recommendation that this is what we think is best for the city of Rancho Mirage and the residents of Rancho Mirage. So we've got a lot of work to go forward, but I think we're going in the right direction, and certainly we're looking at it from the standpoint of we maintain whatever the final decision will be made. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else on council? I will open it now to anybody in the public wish to ask any questions or speak on this subject. All right, seeing none. Barbara, thank you very much. Isaiah, thank you. I will now call for a motion. Anybody wish to make it? If not, Richard?
I'd like to move the City Council adopt resolution number 2017, next in order, authorizing the city's entry into a joint exercise of powers agreement regarding the California Choice Energy Authority and Administrative Services Agreement, Security Agreement, and other ancillary agreements, and directing the taking of further action they're related thereto.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Christy. We are now moving along to item number 14 is regarding the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. Joseph Carpenter, title Financial Manager, will present the staff report. Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I'd like to take this time to thank the Budget Subcommittee, consisting of Mayor Pro Tem Kite and Councilmember Hobart, for their time in reviewing the budget adjustments included in your staff report and the fiscal update that's part of this presentation. Thank you. Today's presentation is going to focus primarily on a review of the general fund operating budget versus actual results and non-operating or capital budget versus actual results for fiscal year 2016-17. The staff report and action you take this afternoon will serve as the mechanism to comply with our budgeting policy for financial reporting purposes. So let's get started. The general fund operating summary provides a high-level summary of the operating revenues and expenditures of the general fund. Operating revenues and expenditures can be thought of in the same context as your personal checking account, your normal day-to-day, week-to-week, or month-to-month income and expenses. On your screen, you will see a recap of the 16-17 budget, 15-16 actual results, and if you focus your attention on the far right column, you will find the 16-17 year-end actual results. For the fiscal year, the general fund had operating revenues of $26.8 million and expenditures of just over $22 million for an operating surplus of $4.7 million. This surplus was the result of both an increase in revenue and decrease in expenditures, which I'll detail in the next few slides. The table on your screen highlights the $2 million increase in actual recognized revenue versus budgeted revenue for the fiscal year. As you can see, the city received $974,000 more in transient occupancy tax, commonly known as TOT or bed tax, than we budgeted for. This increase was the result of tremendous growth at our resort hotels. Two other revenue sources that significantly exceeded their budgeted projections were sales tax by $290,000 and interest on investments for $254,000. The remaining 30-plus revenue sources, such as property tax and building, planning, and public work fees, to name a few, exceeded their budgeted projections by $529,000. Approximately $225,000 of this can be directly attributed to the Pulte Homes project currently under development. Now let's take a look at operating expenditures. General fund operating expenditures are broken down into 3 object levels: personnel, which includes salaries and benefits, operations and maintenance, and department equipment. The city's conservative budgeting practice means the city typically does not exceed all funds budgeted, which increases the general fund operating surplus due to the reduction in spending compared to budgeted projections. The table on your screen displays the $2.3 million reduction in actual versus budgeted expenditures for the fiscal year. At an object level, personnel was $262,000 under budget, O&M was $2.1 million under budget, and department equipment items were $74,000 over budget. Please note that all object level expenditures that were over budget for the fiscal year are included in the budget adjustments found in attachment 2 of your staff report. Let's take a closer look at the $2.1 million decrease in budgeted versus actual expenditures at the O&M level. Approximately $1.4 million of the decrease in budgeted expenditures can be attributed to the reduced fire fund subsidy. $404,000 of the decrease is due to our budgeting procedure for contracted sheriff services. What this means is the city budgets for sheriff services according to the largest projected cost increase provided by the Riverside County Sheriff, which was 7% for fiscal year 16-17. However, the actual cost increase was 5.13%. Lastly, Division 7300, Tourism Marketing, experienced a decrease in budgeted expenditures of $111,000 due to the increase in TOT revenue, which causes a lower subsidy to the Tourism and Marketing Fund. Now that we've covered the operating portion of the general fund, I'll summarize non-operating or capital projects. Non-operating revenues and expenditures, also known as the capital budget, can be thought of in the same context as your personal savings account. Money you have saved and earmarked for large one-time purchases or special projects. On your screen, you'll see a recap of the 16-17 budget, 15-16 actual results, and if you focus your attention again on the far right column, you'll find the 2016-17 year-end actual results. For the fiscal year, the general fund had non-operating revenues of $5 million and expenditures of $11.4 million for a non-operating deficit of $6.3 million. This non-operating deficit is expected and normal, as not all capital projects are 100% reimbursed, and thus the general fund bears a portion of project costs. Non-operating revenue consists of various grants and other reimbursements, while non-operating expenditures, which are typically long-term purchases and large capital investments such as land, roads, buildings, and equipment, totaled $11.4 million for the fiscal year. Let's take a closer look at these expenditures. The top 4 non-operating expenditures for the fiscal year accounted for approximately 85% of the total expenditures. The largest non-operating expenditure for the fiscal year was the Ritz-Carlton Rancho Mirage Spa Suites purchase of $5 million. Please note, the funds for the purchase of the spa suites will be returned to the city after 5 years. Remaining significant expenditures include intersection improvements at Bob Hope and Frank Sinatra, totaling $2.19 million, observatory and other library improvements, totaling $1.88 million, and the new citywide software upgrade for $646,000. All right. Now that we've covered the general fund operating and non-operating revenues and expenditures, we can see how this fiscal year's activity was funded utilizing the city's general fund reserves. As you recall, for fiscal year 2016-17, the city had a $4.7 million operating surplus and a $6.3 million non-operating deficit for total net use of reserves of $1.6 million. In the first column along the bottom of your screen, you'll see the city ended the fiscal year with $70 million in general fund reserves, and after accounting for the $1.6 million in net reserves for the fiscal year, outlined in red on your screen, the city will end the fiscal year with $68.5 million in general fund reserves. Now, I'd like to briefly walk through the city's reserve accounts. The unassigned fund balance of $10.8 million is money that has not been committed for specific use and is available for any purpose. The money in the city's remaining 8 reserve accounts have a specific commitment and can only be used for that purpose unless changed by the City Council. The prudent reserve of $25 million is equal to about 1 year's operating revenue and is set aside for future revenue shortfalls of 9% or more caused by economic conditions. The capital improvement reserve of $6.6 million is for land, equipment replacement, information technology equipment and software, and facilities and infrastructure renovations and upgrades. The disaster recovery reserve of $11 million was set aside to cover costs and losses associated with a major earthquake or other major natural disaster that requires activation of the city's emergency operating center. The economic development reserve of $1.1 million is to be used to continue the economic development efforts of the former redevelopment agency. The Ritz Spa Suites reserve commitment was satisfied with the purchase of the spa suites. Remember, these funds will be repaid to the city in 5 years. The Section 19 water reserve of $5.1 million is for costs related to bringing water to Section 19 for development purposes. The library reserve of $3.6 million is set aside for future needs of the Rancho Mirage Public Library. And lastly, as the city places a high priority on providing the absolute best in public safety, the public safety reserve of $5 million was created for police, fire, medical services equipment, and capital needs that may arise in the future. In addition to the general fund, I'd like to call your attention to 2 other funds, the Housing Authority and the Rancho Mirage Public Library. First, the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority ended fiscal year 16-17 with a fund balance of $14.2 million. However, only $6.7 million is spendable as of the end of the fiscal year. $7.5 million of the fund balance are long-term receivables that are being collected over the coming years and are not available to spend as of today. And the Rancho Mirage Public Library ended the fiscal year with a $135,000 surplus. Library Director David Bryant and his staff continue to do an amazing job at our state and nationally recognized library without requiring a subsidy from the general fund. To close, in fiscal year 16-17, the City of Rancho Mirage continued its long history of solid financial management, as evidenced by the $4.7 million operating surplus, and continues to execute its long-term plans and use its reserves to better position the city financially and invest in community assets. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Joseph, you did that beautifully. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, anybody on the council have any questions? Ted?
No, I'd merely like to say that it's a remarkable report. Congratulations to everyone in the finance department, Isaiah, Joseph, certainly Richard and Dana, being on the budget subcommittee that works so closely with the finance department. It's quite remarkable that we can end up with a total balance of $68 million in the general fund. When you take into consideration the expenditures of $5 million for the Ritz-Carlton suites that will be returned over a period of time, the Frank Sinatra improvement in the observatory, and other expenses. It's a financial report to behold and to be proud of. And I said this earlier in the meeting, it sets the bar very, very high, and makes us all very proud.
Thank you, Ted. Anybody else? Richard?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback what Ted has said, I think sometimes we take for granted the strong financial condition that we have here. And to increase our surplus from 1 million to 4 million, you look at those dollars and they're just entries on a piece of paper, but when you really get down to it, it's an amphitheater, it's a public park, it's a dog park, it's observatory, it's the best road system in the valley. All of those things are what we have been able to achieve out of managing our portfolio and managing our money. Certainly staff has done a great job in doing this, but I think we should all be very proud of the city that we have, and it doesn't stop here. It'll go on forward into the future.
Thank you, Richard. We're moving on then. I will call for a motion, and I will make the motion that the City Council, Housing Authority Board, and Community Service District Board, A, adopt resolution number 2017 next in order, amending the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. B, adopt resolution number 2017-HA next in order, amending the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. C, adopt resolution number 2017 CSD next in order, amending the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
And motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Christy. We will now go into closed session, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Quintanilla. Will you please introduce the closed session items?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. The City Council and Housing Authority Board is now going to recess into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 regarding the existing case known as Veronica Juarez versus City of Rancho Mirage, and 3 potential initiation of litigation items.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for being here in person and on television watching this. We are now in recession.